Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're gonna watch Elon Musk's interview with Fox News regarding AI.
So I've been thinking about AI for a long time, since I was in college, really. It's one of the things that, the sort of 4 or 5 things I thought would really affect the future dramatically. It is fundamentally profound in that the smartest creatures, as far as we know, on this earth are humans, is our defining characteristic.
Yes.
We're obviously weaker than, say, chimpanzees, or less agile, but we are smarter. So now, what happens when something vastly smarter than the smartest person comes along in silicon form? It's very difficult to predict what will happen in that circumstance. It's called the singularity. It's a singularity like a black hole, because
Yes.
you don't know what happens.
Yeah, I agree. It's really hard to predict what is going to happen if a more intelligent being shows up. Just on Earth in general, the most intelligent or most powerful being will pretty much take control over other beings' fate. Not saying that it's the right thing, but that's what's happening currently with how humans decide on what type of animal they choose to eat, what type of animals they choose to keep as pets. They can keep animals in zoos, they can capture them, they can also save a species if they want to. So we actually put ourselves, since we're the most intelligent being, we do put ourselves first. And if anything happens to, let's say, if we have to choose between saving a life of an animal or a life of a human, we will always choose the human first. So it's hard to know if AI will also do the same thing if it reaches the level of artificial superintelligence.
I think there should be some government oversight, because it affects it's a danger to the public. And so when you have things that are a danger to the public, like, let's say, so food and drugs. That's why we have the Food and Drug Administration,
Right.
and the Federal Aviation Administration, the FCC. We have these agencies to oversee things that affect the public, where there could be public harm. And you don't want companies cutting corners on safety, and then having people suffer as a result. So that's why I've actually for a long time been a strong advocate of AI regulation. Something I think regulation is, it's not fun to be regulated. It's sort of somewhat arduous to be regulated. I have a lot of experience with regulated industries, because obviously automotive is highly regulated. You could fill this room with all the regulations that are required for a production car just in the United States, and then there's a whole different set of regulations in Europe and China and the rest of the world. So very familiar with being overseen by a lot of regulators. And the same thing is true with rockets. You can't just willy-nilly shoot rockets off, not big ones anyway, because the FAA oversees that. And then even to get a launch license, there are probably half a dozen or more federal agencies that need to approve it, plus state agencies. So I've been through so many regulatory situations. It's insane. And sometimes people think I'm some sort of like regulatory maverick that sort of defies regulators on a regular basis, but this is actually not the case. Once in a blue moon, rarely I will disagree with regulators, but the vast majority of the time, my companies agree with the regulations and comply.
I would say there's definitely not enough regulations around AI. It's only recently that we started having regulations around banning AI from running nuclear missile systems, which is something that can be extremely disastrous if it actually happened. This is a good start, but there's so many industries that AI is being applied to right now at a really fast speed. Think about like medical industry or the car industry whatsoever. I mean, are we going to go through every single industry and try to figure out all these edge cases that how AI can potentially cause harm? Or is there going to be like one blanket regulation that could potentially cover all of these industries, which doesn't seem possible. And with the speed of how these regulations are being placed, it's just way too slow to catch up with AI's development. I think it might be helpful if we could use AI to figure out or help with setting these type of regulations, to be honest.
Anyway, so I think we should take this seriously, and we should have a regulatory agency. I think it needs to start with a group that initially seeks insight into AI, then solicits opinion from industry, and then has proposed rulemaking, and then those rules, will probably, hopefully, grudgingly be accepted by the major players in AI, and I think we'll have a better chance of advanced AI being beneficial to humanity in that circumstance.
But all regulations start with a perceived danger. Planes fall out of the sky, or food causes botulism.
Yes.
I don't think the average person playing with AI on his iPhone perceives any danger. Can you just roughly explain what you think the dangers might be?
Yeah, so the danger, really, AI is perhaps more dangerous than, say, mismanaged aircraft design or production maintenance or bad car production, in the sense that it has the potential, however small one may regard that probability, but it is non-trivial. It has the potential of civilizational destruction. There's movies like Terminator, but it wouldn't quite happen like Terminator, because the intelligence would be in the data centers.
Right.
The robot's just the end effector. But I think perhaps what you may be alluding to here is that regulations are really only put into effect after something terrible has happened.
That's correct.
If that's the case for AI, and we only put in regulations after something terrible has happened, it may be too late to actually put the regulations in place. The AI may be in control at that point.
Yeah, I was imagining it to be like Terminator, like the worst case scenario to be like Terminator. I don't think it is as dangerous if AI didn't have a physical body and only lived in data centers, just because data centers still run on electricity, and if they don't have a physical body, how are they going to stop humans from turning the data centers off? But I can still see how dangerous it is just to have them live in data centers and have control over the internet or control over social media, just because in the past media has a really big influence on what people think and how people would react. I read a book back then on why America is becoming more and more divided, and this is like social media has a really big contribution to it, just because they have this algorithm that wants you to constantly go back to their platforms. So if you have a belief, you'll tend to look at certain contents more, and that's how the algorithm knows that you prefer these content. They will slowly show you more and more extreme content, and that's how people become more extreme, more divided, more misunderstanding between each other, and more conflict, which can also cause riots and stuff. So maybe AI doesn't even need a physical body to destroy humans. We could technically destroy ourselves.
You think that's real? It is conceivable that AI could take control and reach a point where you couldn't turn it off, and it would be making the decisions for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, that's definitely where things are headed, for sure. I mean, the things like say ChatGPT, which is based on GPT-4 from OpenAI, which is a company that I played a critical role in creating, unfortunately.
Back when it was a nonprofit?
Yes. I mean, the reason OpenAI exists at all is that Larry Page and I used to be close friends, and I would stay at his house in Palo Alto, and I would talk to him late into the night about AI safety. And at least my perception was that Larry was not taking AI safety seriously enough.
What did he say about it?
He really seemed to be wants sort of digital superintelligence, basically digital God, if you will, as soon as possible.
He wanted that?
Yes. He's made many public statements over the years that the whole goal of Google is what's called AGI, artificial general intelligence, or artificial superintelligence. And I agree with him that there's great potential for good, but there's also potential for bad. And so if you've got some radical new technology, you want to try to take the set of actions that maximize the probability it will do good and minimize the probability it will do bad things.
Yes.
It can't just be hell for leather. Let's just go, barreling forward and, hope for the best. And then at one point, I said, well, what about, we're going to make sure humanity's okay here. And then he called me a speciesist.
Did he use that term?
Yes. And there were witnesses. I wasn't the only one there when he called me a speciesist. And so I was like, okay, that's it. Yes, I'm a speciesist. Okay, you got me. What are you? Yeah, I'm fully a speciesist. Busted. So that was the last straw. At the time, Google had acquired DeepMind, and so Google and DeepMind together had about 3/4 of all the AI talent in the world. They obviously had a tremendous amount of money and more computers than anyone else. So I'm like, okay, we're about unipolar world here, where there's just one company that it has close to monopoly on AI talent and computers, like scaled computing. And the person who's in charge doesn't seem to care about safety. This is not good. So then I thought, what's the furthest thing from Google would be like a nonprofit that is fully open, because Google was closed for profit. So that's why the open in OpenAI refers to open source, transparency, so people know what's going on.
Yes.
And that we don't want to have like while I'm normally in favor of for profit, we don't want this to be sort of a profit maximizing demon from hell.
That's right.
That just never stops.
Right.
This is so funny and sad at the same time. The original goal of OpenAI was to go against this possible monopoly of Google having so many AI resources. And right now, it was taken over by Microsoft and it became for profit. That's just it just defeats the original purpose of starting OpenAI.
So that's how OpenAI would.
So you want speciesist incentives here? Incentives that...
Yes, I think we want pro-human...
Yeah.
Like the future good for the humans.
Yes.
Yes, because we're humans.
So can you just put it... I keep pressing you, but just for people who haven't thought this through and aren't familiar with it, and the cool parts of artificial intelligence are so obvious... write your college paper for you, write a limerick about yourself.
Yeah.
There's a lot there that's fun and useful. But can you be more precise about what's potentially dangerous and scary? What could it do? What specifically are you worried about?
Going with old sayings, the pen is mightier than the sword. If you have a super intelligent AI that is capable of writing incredibly well and in a way that is very influential, convincing, and is constantly figuring out what is more convincing to people over time, and then enters social media, for example, Twitter, but also Facebook and others, and potentially manipulates public opinion in a way that is very bad. How would we even know?
It is kind of scary if one day AI is able to write really persuasive tweets or any type of post on social media that reflects their own probably harmful opinions. And at that time, it would have already been too late. One possible way to solve this is having tools that can detect AI-generated content. But when it comes to that point where AI's generated posts on social media, they sound so persuasive, sound so close to what a normal human would write. How are these tools going to be effective on actually catching an AI instead of a human? They could be making a lot of mistakes. So I think it's really hard to achieve. Another way is still with current existing tools where social media platforms scan through harmful content and ban them or what. But this also gives these social media platforms a lot of power, a lot of say on what is harmful. And, well, obviously it's gonna be somehow conflicting with freedom of speech. It's definitely not an easy problem to solve. I think with the current speed of how AI is developing, there's no way we can catch up with the regulations if we're just having humans trying to deal with it. So we'll still need AI to be involved somehow to help us set up these regulations, and that can actually catch up with the harmful AI bots that are gonna be possible one day. Anyhow, that's what I have for today, and let me know what you think about this topic. These are just my own opinions, and I don't have a really deep understanding of a lot of these issues probably yet. So yeah, we'll be down to hear out some different opinions, and if you'd like more tech or AI related discussions, please like and subscribe. Thanks.